Hello, everybody, and welcome to the weekly Locked On Big 12 Roundtable. Tonight, questions from you all. It was Memorial Day weekend, so we moved our Monday mailbag to Tuesday. We'll take your questions tonight and debate the biggest questions you all have for us. That's coming up on the show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. I am Josh Neighbors, the host of Locked On Big 12. If you're watching on YouTube, to my right, it is John Williams, the host of Locked On Sooners. Below him, it is Jake Hatch. He is the host of Locked On Cougars. And to his left, below me, it is Drake Toll. He is the host of Locked On Baylor, Locked On Bears. I always forget. It's Locked On Baylor, right?
Yeah, there was a thing in Chicago, something before Baylor happened, so we're locked on Baylor.
Well, we never know this because one Jake Hatch had to deal with the old cease and desist from the Brigham Young Cougars for his podcast name. So
you were locked on BYU for all of about 5 episodes, then we quickly changed to Locked On Cougars.
So that is why I'm always skeptical. That's why I don't know about this stuff. We have questions we're going to get to tonight. First thing, though, we did get a question about baseball. I want to touch on this real fast. Guys, the Big 12 did not get much respect when it came to the seeding. The question we got was from Brian Caper saying, how the heck did the back-to-back champs not host this year, with a frowny face emoji? I believe he's referring to the TCU Horned Frogs, who, they kind of backed their way into the Big 12 title, to be honest.
You're welcome.
The Oklahoma Sooners. But, John, I have to say this, like them not hosting and OU not hosting was really surprising. The big problem is, though, we were getting the host sites before Oklahoma had even played in the Big 12 championship game. And I know it's one game, but they smoked Texas and it looked like the best team really for the last 3 weeks of the season. John, they should be hosts. I mean, this is not sour grapes. They should be hosting.
Yeah, it is a bit of a surprise that neither the regular season champion or the tournament champion is getting to host one of the regionals. The only thing I can really point to is the fact that maybe UT and OSU have had much longer runs of baseball success and maybe considered more baseball hotbeds. I don't know. That's really all I can really point to is maybe they're going to have better facilities, better stadiums set up to host a regional. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Oklahoma won 5 straight series to close the season, including 3 on the road. They swept Kansas. They took 2 or 3 from Texas Tech, 2 or 3 from TCU, and had a chance to get a share of the Big 12 title on the last day of the season before dropping that final game to Texas Tech. But yeah, I mean, they played great in the tournament. They were up 8-1 when the announcements were coming out about the regionals, which is 2 things that are baffling about that. One, that the NCAA would come out with the regionals while there's still championships getting played. And 2, that the Big 12 wouldn't think that, maybe they're going to announce the regionals before our game finishes. Maybe we should consider moving.
Well, the problem is the TV decides that, though, because like the Pac-12, they played their conference title game at 9:00 Eastern time, I believe.
Yeah.
On Sunday night, which is they have to figure this out.
And I get that Oklahoma's RPI was only like 20 and they were 24 going in, but we got to consider a little bit of context when these decisions are getting made. Yes, the RPI matters. Yes, they had some bad losses at times, but they also had some big wins. And they took one in Stillwater from Oklahoma State. They were close in the other couple games. This is a team that should have been hosting, and either one of them or TCU should have gotten a hosting opportunity. The fact that neither did is testament to a flaw in the system.
Yeah, the Big 12 did not get very good looks this year. Sad news out of Baylor. Steve Rodriguez, and you said he had to go, and others were saying it seems like this was not the way people wanted to see it. And I know our friend Steven Simcox is not here. It feels very much Gary Patterson, TCU. It's like, look, we didn't want it to end this way, but it had to for Steve Rodriguez and Baylor.
Yeah, we're like on the opposite end of the spectrum as John. Like John is like, we should have gotten a host site. Baylor's like, look, man, I don't even know what to do with baseball right now.
Right.
Obviously it's a hairy situation. You're looking at a team that went 26-28 last year, and oddly enough, there are a lot of Baylor fans who are pretty argumentative about this one and think that Rodriguez needed a longer leash because he got a tough shake in a couple of his seasons, and a lot of his players got hurt. But there's also the flip side of that coin. When you have a ton of pitching injuries, at some point you got to look at technique. I mean, what's your pitching coach really settling in with his guys? There are a lot of questions there, and telling you, there were 15 to 20 players, a source told us, that had threatened the transfer portal if Rodriguez was was kept in Waco. And if you lose, say, even the low end, 15 of your guys from your roster, you're just gutted. Your program's
Oh my
gutted.
God.
So it's the weird situation now with the prevalence of the transfer portal that if these teams really want to throw a mutiny, they can. The players can get the coach fired whenever they want to, which he didn't get fired. He, air quotes for the people listening at home, stepped down,
Right.
but he was told to step down for sure. And in the end, you need a baseball coach that's from Texas if you're a Texas school. Anybody disagree? Okay, sweet. You need a Texas guy. He was a California guy. It didn't work out. Small ball doesn't play well in Central Texas. So hello, Mitch Thompson. Thank you. Good night.
Jake, I will ask you this. You guys, you all have one of the most beautiful parks in all of America when it comes to college baseball. What it seems like you don't have quite yet, and you're going to need when you're going to go to a conference with a bunch of teams from Texas, is going to be a team. Now, look, that's not a team that had that's awful. It's missed the NCAA tournament a bunch. They made it last in 2017, but they lose their coach Mike Littlewood this year, and now Trent Pratt, the interim, actually did a pretty decent job. But the future of BYU baseball, they're going to need a little bit of some bumping up, some upping the quality of play as they head to the Big 12.
Yeah, the biggest thing is pitching's at a premium in college baseball. We all know that. And BYU, they're a cold weather school that plays at altitude, so you've got to have good pitching, and they know that. I had a conversation with Mike Littlewood going into the season in February, and he talked about the fact that they got ready to play in the Big 12. He said that we're going to need to continue to develop our pitching depth overall, the overall talent base, and just the overall depth of their bullpen. And I thought their pitching actually was pretty good this year for BYU. They kind of flamed out in the West Coast Conference tournament despite making a very, very good run towards making that postseason tournament. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Trent Pratt does get elevated to being the permanent replacement for Littlewood after he's been a longtime assistant for Mike. But some interesting times ahead for BYU baseball. They're going into a whole new realm for them because they have never played this level of baseball as they go into the Big 12.
And to that, I know we don't always talk about baseball on here, but it's worth mentioning as we hit that time. Also, I have to mention three Big 12 programs are in the Women's College World Series for softball: Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and also Texas. And we always mention this for OU, but it needs to be mentioned for Oklahoma State. Another year where Kenny Gajewski's group does not have to leave the state of Oklahoma as well, because we always mention that for OU, right? Yeah, Drake, you got something on softball you want to mention?
Dude, look, guess who the Baylor softball PA guy is?
You? Is it you?
Guys, you don't have to clap. For those listening on the podcast, you guys
I had no idea.
clap.
I had no idea we had a broadcasting legend with us.
Yeah, you got a softball guy on here right now.
How they do this year?
You're swinging right up my alley. Hello.
How they do this year? How they do?
How did who do?
Baylor.
Oh, winners of the NIT. Hello.
I did see that.
You guys were all looking elsewhere. We were sneakily winning tournaments. That's right. Only 2 teams end their season with a win. One of them is your Baylor Bears.
There you go.
Let me say this. I actually spoke to the Baylor head coach this weekend, and he was, I don't know if I can say this. This is terrible. He was like, hey, isn't it cool that like the SEC Super Conference got a gajillion teams in the tournament and only one is going to Oklahoma City? He said, we got 3 in the tournament. Talk about all 3 are in OKC. He's like, I would know. I had to face all 3 of them.
Yeah.
It didn't go that well.
It was much like the Big Ten during the basketball season.
Yeah, right. But what a freaking showing. Top heavy, sure, make the case, whatever. But the Big 12, 3 teams in and the eventual national champion too. It's that to me says a lot about this conference.
Yep, it does. John, anything you want to add on softball before we go to football?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I kind of joked with Locked On SEC that part of the reason, or probably the biggest reason that Oklahoma and Texas are going to Big 12 or going to the SEC is to up their softball game a little bit, since none of them can get out of their super regionals. So yeah, I mean, it's huge. Jocelyn Allo, back-to-back National Player of the Year. Jordy Ball, who hasn't pitched in 3 weeks, was named the National Freshman of the Year today. And so a lot of really good things going well for the Oklahoma Sooners. They got 3 players with more than 20 home runs on the season. The only other team in the country that has multiple players was Arkansas, and they gone. So they're going to get a tough test from Northwestern, have a really good pitcher in Danielle Williams, who was a National Player of the Year finalist or top 10 finalist. And then they got a really good hitter too. And so it's going to be a test on Thursday when they match up.
Texas UCLA is game 1. Oklahoma plays Northwestern in game number 2. And then Oklahoma State and Arizona in game number 4. Game 3 is Oregon State and number 14, Florida. Looking forward to that. All right, quick word from our sponsors, and we'll take a football question from you all. You all sent us.
Yay, football.
Yay, football. Today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net. If you'd like to bet on the upcoming football season, if you guys want to find the over-under win totals for the Big 12 and also bet on who will be the Big 12 champion in any conference, really, their champion, you can do that at BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. Beautiful, sleek interface over there. It's free to sign up. When you guys do, check out all the odds for F1, NASCAR, MLB, NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and more. Once again, it's BetOnline and BetOnline.net today. All right, so we got a really nice football question here. I think we're all going to like this. Sam, Oklahoma State fan, asks us, I assume he has got an Oklahoma State icon here on YouTube, who will be the best overall player in the Big 12 this season? Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to each one of you guys, and I want to know who from your team, and I think the way Sam's asking this means at the end of the year, who are we going to look at and say that was the best player in the conference in 2022? So I want you guys, John and Drake, to make the case for a guy on each one of your teams. Then, Jake, I'm going to ask you, who do you think is BYU's best overall player? And then we'll all give our thoughts about who is going to be the best overall player in the conference. So, John, do you have a player that you think will be that has a chance to be the best overall player in the conference and overall is very, very challenging.
Yeah, that's really tough. I mean,
right? So, do you have anybody in mind? I mean, I think Dillon Gabriel
from Oklahoma specifically. Yeah, I mean, you could make a case for Dillon Gabriel or Marvin Mims, being in that conversation. I think on the defensive side, Marcus Stripling, I think, is a guy that's going to have a really, really strong season for the Sooners. Had a breakout game against Oregon, showed up real well in the spring game. He's a guy that's trying to replace Isaiah Thomas or Nick Bonito off the edge. And he's kind of been biding his time. There's Ronnie Perkins, and then there was Nick Bonito and Isaiah Thomas. And now this is a guy that he's ready to roll. And I think he could be somebody that really stands out for the Oklahoma Sooners. But yeah, I think a lot of times we'll look at the offense and it's going to be Dillon Gabriel. There's no real reason to expect that he's going to have a down year. All he's done is produce. He's averaged 300 yards passing per game. He's thrown for 70 touchdowns, very few interceptions. And so I think of Oklahoma Sooners, he's probably the guy that has the best chance to win like a Big 12 Player of the Year award. But I wouldn't put it past Marcus Stripling or Marvin Mims either.
Drake, I think I know we're going to go with this one. Are we heading on the defensive area of football?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going for Baylor, even though Blake Shapen's the best quarterback in the Big 12, per me on a podcast like a month and a half ago. For the people, if you don't know,
was Gary Bohannon was number 2.
Yeah. So right now, I think definitely Siaki Ika. I really believe Siaki Ika, who took a step up late in the season last year on the defensive side of the ball for Baylor, is going to end up being the defensive player of the year in the Big 12. I think he showed that trajectory toward the end. He's an SEC caliber defensive lineman, which is they're a dime a dozen anywhere outside of the SEC. He's an LSU guy who came to Baylor and was just wreaking havoc on teams toward the end of the year last year, and a key reason why Baylor beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl as well. So I think Siaki Ika is going to be that guy for the Baylor defense, and then across the Big 12 as well, a part of a D-line that is elite with Jackson Player coming in from Tulsa as well. So Baylor's not going to make its bed on the offensive side of the ball. They didn't last year and still won the league, so they're going to rely on guys like Siaki Ika in the front line, especially with the secondary having so many question marks. Give me Siaki Ika as Baylor's best shot as the Big 12 Player of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right about this. This kid is 6'4", he's 350, and he put it on late in the season. He was really strong to end the year for Baylor, and you don't see too many guys that size. Jake, who is the best all-around player on BYU, and do you think that if BYU were in the Big 12 this year, said player would have a chance to be the best overall player in the conference when it's all said and done?
Real quick, let me just interject on Siaki Ika. I've called his high school games. He played here in Salt Lake City in Utah in high school at East High. And when he went to LSU, he's actually a big BYU fan. Funny enough, if you ever pay attention to his Twitter feed, he actually talks a lot about the Cougars. But he is a really, really fun player, and Baylor got lucky to get that kid. He's a fantastic human being. Let me just add that in there. All right, on the BYU front, I think it's Jaren Hall. Jaren Hall is everything that he's kind of the next Zach Wilson type guy. We just saw the big board rankings come out from Mel Kiper. He starts at number 6 on that list. I have heard plenty of hype for him going into this season. That all expectations are if he has a healthy year, he's off to the NFL despite having another year of eligibility potentially beyond this year. I think that his ability to both run and pass makes BYU's offense that much more dangerous. The only other guy I would mention in terms of BYU is Blake Freeland, but offensive linemen don't get the love. So I guess I would go with Jaron Hall. And I think that Jaron, if he were to go out and have the season I think he envisions he could be capable of having this year, he would be in the mix for maybe one of the top 5 players in the Big 12 if the Cougars were in the conference. But he'd have to go out there and prove that, because the biggest thing that he has not proven so far is durability. He has missed multiple games every season he has played for BYU in his career so far. If he can have a healthy senior, it would be a redshirt junior season, he would, I think, be a guy absolutely in the mix.
So I'm going to now shuttle us over to the conversation about, and look, I think it's a great pick, with Jaron Hall. I think in the Big 12, he'd have a shot too, because we feel like it's pretty wide open. I'm going to shuttle us over to who we think it's going to be. This is going to be the safest possible pick, but I think I have to go here. Deuce Vaugh is the best all-around player heading into 2022. Is he the talent that Bijan Robinson is? No, he is not, right? I think we can all admit that. But when I watched him last year with the revolving door of quarterbacks, whether it was who graduated this year, the kid was there forever, totally blanking on his name. Somebody help me out. Skylar Thompson. Whether it was Will Howard, whether it was Jaron Lewis playing quarterback for them, he was money. He was really good, and that's hard to do when, especially a guy who makes, you get some of that bread coming out of the backfield catching footballs as well. The guy's a true 4-down back, and you don't see many guys who are 5'6", 172 that are true 4-down backs. 1,800 yards total on the year last year, 22 total touchdowns. He's basically around I think it's 6+ yards per touch. He's well over 6 yards per touch last year. So I think that is my leader right now. While he might not win player of the year or offensive player of the year, he's just the best player in the conference, I think, in my opinion. Talent? No. But scalability plus already seen production, he's a really talented player. I mean, don't get me wrong. Bijan's just wow, I think of Adrian Peterson. I think of Bijan Robinson, next level talent guys. But yeah, he's really talented, and also he's already really good. So I'm going to go that direction. John, what do you think?
I mean, he was kind of one of the first guys that came to my mind when having this discussion, but I'll throw another name at you, and that's Xavier Worthy. I don't think Oklahoma fans want to hear this necessarily, but the dude is legit, and he's really, really good. I mean, we saw it on the first play of the game last year in the Red River Showdown. The guy can score from anywhere on the field, made one of our transfer cornerbacks, Latrell McCutcheon, end up standing on his head with his elite ability to score touchdowns. So that's a guy I think is going to have another big year and probably an even better year than he had last year, even though they had several additions at the wide receiver position, added a good tight end as well. So that's going to take a lot of attention in coverage away from Xavier Worthy, who should thrive because of it. You got a better quarterback. We assume Quinn Ewers is going to be a better passer than either guy that they rolled out there last year. And so I think he's a guy that's going to be in line for a big, big season. Another Kansas State guy I want to throw out there is Felix Anudike. That guy, man, I think he's going to have another big season. He's already being considered as a first-round talent for the NFL draft next year, and there's a lot of reasons why. The guy can just get after the passer. He can stop the run. And for Kansas State to be as good as people think they're going to be, he's going to have a big season, and I think he's fully capable of that.
Drake, what are your thoughts on what John said, and also who's your guy you have in mind?
Yeah, I think Bijan Robinson obviously would be the pretty low-hanging fruit pick, but he only played 10 games last season. In those 10 games, I mean, really statistically was still overshadowed by guys like Abram Smith, who kind of came off the page out of nowhere. Not to say that that's any knock to Bijan Robinson whatsoever, but can he stay healthy is a question for me going into this season, and can he produce consistently? I'm not sure if the answer to both of those is yes, especially coming off of injury. So we'll see that. And with that, to throw some in there, I was going to say Deuce Vaugh. I think Deuce Vaughn's a really, really safe pick out of Kansas State. He's one of those guys that reminds me a lot of like Breece Hall in that he's just kind of there, right? You're just confident in his ability week after week. Xavier Worthy was like my backup too. So John, you also check that off. I'm going to throw somebody kind of random out there, but that I think could end up having a really good year this next season. I really think SaRodorick Thompson will be leaned on out of Texas Tech, especially with Joey McGuire. I think Joey McGuire is going to go in there and try to ignite something, right? Baylor-esque from what we saw from the Bears last season, which is igniting the run game when you have three quarterbacks in a carousel that I don't think is very good. I know Emory would definitely disagree with that. I
disagree. I think they're all really good.
I see if there's not a lot of separation, it feels like, between the three, and I'm not sure that any of the three are elite style quarterbacks. So I think you then lean on your running back because what do we see last year with Baylor? No elite quarterback, just hand it off to somebody. SaRodorick Thompson might be that guy at Texas Tech.
I will say this. So, I took a lot of flack recently because I had their running back group ranked, like, I think I put them 6th, which in retrospect was too low. I think they should have been like around 5th or 4th. Here's the thing, though. I looked last year at some of the numbers that Zach Kitley, that his running backs put up. They're not particularly good. Now, I think Drake, the one thing that is going to benefit them is that I'm not really positive who's going to be catching the football for Texas Tech this year. So I think with that, it's like, all right, who do we have? We have SaRodorick Thompson. We have Taj Brooks. We have Xavier White, who I think is going to be transitioning to wide receiver now after playing running back. So I think actually like that might be the thing. It's like, all right, we might just have to get the running backs football a whole lot. So I think SaRodorick Thompson might have a really good year.
Jake, hate SaRodorick Thompson as you might. You guys also took Bijan Robinson, Deuce Vaugh, and Xavier Worthy off the board. So what?
You can pick whoever you want. This is
Quentin Johnston. There's Quentin Johnston
here. Quentin Johnston's very much alive. Yeah. Jake, who do you have?
So I was going to mention Felix Anudike, so I'm glad that name came up. I'm going to toss another defensive player out there, Will McDonald from Iowa State.
That's good.
22 sacks, I think, over the past 2 years for Iowa State. He is a kind of a hybrid linebacker / defensive end type, but I'm not going to lie. Drake, I'm going to put Siaki Ika up there. His ability to both rush the passer, being 350 pounds, but also just be that man in the middle who just clogs everything up. He's a monster. So there's a lot of talent spread around this conference, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball. And I'm not sure there's a clear favorite, but maybe Deuce Vaughn is the guy because just his overall production numbers.
Yeah. So I think because remember last year, didn't he have the 5.5, 6 sack game where they took a sack away because that was so dumb because the ball got stripped away. Yeah. Look, on defense, I think we have to go to those are the big three, right? Think about Ika. Think about I always mispronounce it. Wazarike, is that right? Wazarike. Fair enough. Yeah.
Anudike.
Whatever. Yeah, Anudike. Yeah, I always mess it up. Whatever. And then also Will McDonald, right? And he came back, and look, when he and Hutchinson decided to come back, I was really surprised. I think the other one John mentioned, Quentin Johnston, especially on offense. So this is a guy that on draft boards, you'll actually see he's a pretty highly rated wide receiver. Just because you look at him, the physical tools that he has are off the charts. The problem for him was you don't really get to see him run the tree, especially when they with their offense last year. It was kind of like, all right, it just bombs. Like he had the kind of games where it's like 3 catches, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You're like, oh, okay, I guess that's how it is. And that wasn't really his fault. I'm excited to see that offense this year, maybe with Chandler Morris, if things change there. Anybody else anybody think that we're missing?
Nobody has said Devin Neal. Nobody has said the Texas world beater Devin Neal.
So now, if you watch the running back ranking show, my friend Robbie Triano from Sirius XM, we had Kansas's running backs ranked number 2 in the league in our power rankings because they're also bringing over Kai Thomas from Minnesota, who had a spectacular year. So, look, mention that. I mean, the running back in this league, it's really curious, guys. We had this conversation I think we've mentioned this before, but like we're going to be talking about, hey, do the quarterbacks take the step up to kind of fill the hole that wide receiver or the running backs left last year? Or is it the other way around? And BYU is no different, right, Jake? I mean, no Tyler Algier, so it's going to have to be Jaron Hall.
Yeah, well, the one other name I felt like we probably need to throw out there is one of John's guys, Marvin Mims. I know that he doesn't have the monster numbers quite yet, but sure feels like he is ready to break out. And that's probably the one other guy I would probably have on that list is Marvin Mims.
I'm with you on that. We should definitely have him on there. But if we had to pick, so let's all pick a person. So I'm picking Deuce Vaughn. That's my guy. Drake, who's your guy?
If you're gonna take Deuce Vaughn off the board,
you can take
you know what,
can still have him too.
John, do you have dibs on Xavier Worthy?
No, you can have him. You all can have the same player.
All right.
Have the same player.
Oh, I felt like we have the same player. Shoot, man. All right. You know what? I can't go with the Texas guy. Give me Deuce Vaughn. I'm gonna go with Josh here. It's a safe pick. If I had to put money, if I had to bet online, one player, it is Deuce Vaughn.
John.
Yeah, I'm going to turn the corner and go Dillon Gabriel. I just think the offense is just ready to explode. Marvin Mims, Jake mentioned Marvin Mims. He's averaged 20 yards per reception for his career at this point in time. And now he's got an offense that's probably going to feed him a little bit more heavily. There's going to be less of a wide receiver rotation like they had last year. And so I think Dillon Gabriel is just really set to have a really strong season. A lot of it's going to come down to the 3 games that matter the most for Oklahoma on their schedule, and that's Baylor, Oklahoma State, and Texas. And how he performs in those games is going to go a long way to determining where Oklahoma stands in the Big 12 and his status as potentially player of the year.
Jake.
I'm going with my boy Siaki Ika. His nickname is Apu. It's the nickname he grew up with. I love the kid. I've known him for years. I think he is going to be an absolute stud this year for Baylor in the middle of that defense.
Hey, Josh, I'll throw this out here too. Nobody has mentioned the Big 12 Offensive Lineman of the Year, who is back next season, Connor Galvin. Yeah, that guy deserved. Also, I'll say this: number one, that guy deserves a shout out. 2, notice how in the first conversation about best player in Big 12, right? We didn't really mention a quarterback. Does that show just how
Dillon Gabriel was there? To be fair,
Dillon Gabriel was there. We also have an Oklahoma guy on here, John. Hey, Dillon Gabriel.
I think Josh brought him up.
I was
oh my gosh!
I was the first to bring him up, but John did take it
as he should be. As he should be. Most years, though, it'd be like you're throwing out Jalen Hurts, right?
Well, let's just say, come on, Jeff Lebby just got. He had Matt Corral on his way to being a first-round NFL.
I never saw Matt Corral play well. I'm sorry, John. I never saw Matt Corral.
What games were you watching?
Only one of them, and I was there.
He got knocked out.
He didn't play the whole game.
I think to Drake's point, well, it's so funny because we expect the quarterbacks to take a step up this year, but we just mentioned a bunch of running backs and wide receivers.
Well, does that show the parity at the top of the Big 12 quarterback battle, or does it show truly how well the skill position guys are in this conference, or does it say a little bit of both?
The first team Big 12 quarterback last year wasn't brought up, right? And
because he wasn't good.
Once again, I have a lot of real estate on Spencer Sanders Island. It's somebody who might have to sell it off this year, trying to hang on to it as long as possible. One more thing I want to mention before we get out of here, guys, on this is not this conversation specifically. Something somebody mentioned to us that, I told y'all last week, the San Diego State folks have really just been pushing their agenda on me. I think I just automatically say no to a time zone that spans a conference that spans 4 time zones.
Yeah.
I'm cool with Mountain Time. I'm cool with Mountain, Central, and East Coast time. I'm cool with that. I don't want to be playing in Orlando, Florida, and San Diego. God love you all have been excellent to me. I really appreciate the interaction on Twitter, and somebody else had mentioned this too. We don't want a 4 time zone league, Jake, right?
You're gonna be spanning coast, and that's the tough part is in terms of the travel that would be involved with all that. San Diego State, their fan base is they want so badly to be at the Power 5 level. So I get why they're pushing this. The problem is the Pac-12 is never going to take them. And so the only option they have is to push for the Big 12 as hard as they possibly can. The sad part is if you were to go to the pecking order of potential expansion candidates, Memphis, Boise State, Colorado State, Air Force, you keep going down that list. SMU. Yeah. You go down that list of ways before you finally get to San Diego State as a viable option. So it just doesn't seem like they're going to be the darling that they think they are.
Wow. Jake just made every San Diego State fan so upset right there. That was a little Jake bomb right there on San Diego State.
BYU and San Diego program. If they were anywhere else, it would make some sense. If they were in New Mexico, it would make a little bit of sense, but they're so far out there. And I love San Diego.
It's a good, successful program. And also I balk at adding them because there's so much stuff you can do in San Diego.
Hey,
right? There's so
a
much
zoo.
stuff you can do.
They have the
I'm
zoo.
just
Well, how about the beach? I'd recommend the beach.
Yeah.
That's why it's like.
Okay.
I mean,
What are the
dude,
beaches of San Diego?
if you ever watch Chargers games, the Chargers played 17 road. My dog agrees.
Not
The
dog.
Chargers played 17 road games every single year. 16 now 17. Because you know why? There aren't any. There are no Chargers fans. And look, I know there are some people who love their San Diego. Look, there are people, there's Chargers.
Hey, Josh, I work day to day with a diehard Chargers fan. He is.
There are some of them out there, but like when they first moved to LA, when they played,
Jake knows the one. Jake knows the one guy. Yeah.
Because people are like, you know what I want to do? I want to go out to Los Angeles and go out to San Diego and go watch them play. And Qualcomm sucked. So that's
You're not wrong. And the thing is, the show, which is their fan section, they have a very vibrant Twitter community. I guarantee I'm going to have San Diego State fans in the show coming after me in my Twitter mentions. I'm totally okay with it. I've got a long history of a decade plus with those folks. I work with David James on a day-to-day basis. He is the diehard of the diehard Chargers fans, but he gave up on them when they moved to LA. He's a San Diego native. I work with him on a daily basis. And as soon as they moved to LA, they essentially were dead to him. So there you go.
it makes sense. And here's the thing too, so I thought it would be more possible right now if we're going to do this expansion thing. The Pac-12 does not have their new deal yet. Mm-hmm. I would shoot for an Arizona or an Arizona State or a Colorado, maybe to get them. I know they probably wouldn't because they already made the jump. But I would go with that direction too. I know that we're pushing it West Coast, but that's the only way I would do it. Is one of those schools. It's kind of already a brand that Arizona is right there, right? It's not like it's too far away to go. It kind of makes sense, not too far from Texas. So I think that's the direction I would go. But I mean, San Diego State's a bridge too far for me. That's a bridge too far, and I know it's close to Arizona and it's that far away. But unless you give me a Power 5 program, it's not the action's not really worth the juice. To use a phrase in the movie Heat. So yeah, to change around, I guess. Anything else on expansion before we get out of here?
I just say, give me the Arizona schools. If you can get the Arizona schools, I'm all for it. There's been those rumors out there. Chase them as hard as you possibly can until they tell you no.
Give me Boise State over San Diego State.
And also, so many people have been mentioning too. I just want to mention this also. Guys, we understand that it's not maybe the best financial move to add these schools if they're not adding anything else. But I don't want to see Boise State football go away if we move to a model where it's only the Power 5 survive. Boise deserves a seat at the table. I think Memphis Hoops deserves a seat at the table. I actually wouldn't be, if we're going to do this thing where it's just hey, power leagues, whatever, and we'll see what happens in basketball. Would anybody be mad if the Big 12 just added Gonzaga in basketball? I wouldn't be mad. I would if that's the way we're going with all this stuff. Memphis football, they're putting more money into it now, so I'd like to see that thing stay around. SMU football, we know how much money they have. There are some serious programs that
Pepperdine tennis.
Pepperdine tennis, we don't want to see them go away either.
They have a great beach. Go to Malibu.
Yes. Oh, dude, Pepperdine's it's amazing. Hey, right on the water.
BYU's trading in Malibu in the West Coast Conference for the Big 12. In terms of the locales, BYU's downgrading.
You're going to love Norman. You're going to love Waco.
You're going to really enjoy. You're saying you can be playing Pepperdine and we're playing in Lubbock? That's what's going to happen. We're in Lubbock? What happened to Malibu? All right, folks. This was a fun one. Let everybody know where they can find you all and your work and all of its variety. John, you're up first.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Locked On Sooners, or the show on Twitter at Locked On Sooners, me at John 9 Williams. You can also read my work covering the Sooners at the Sooners Wire. We're also available on YouTube. So I finally put out my 3x6 SEC alignment for the Oklahoma Sooners over on Sooners Wire. Feel free to go check that out. You can roast me on Twitter at John 9 Williams. Looking forward to it.
And also, John, I loved your tweet about how much different sports you've been able to cover. It's so cool you've been able to do.
Dude, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. Yeah. Just this last year, going from just covering the Dallas Cowboys to writing about women's tennis and gymnastics and softball. It's been a blessing. I'm super.
They all matter. All the sports matter. We talk about football too much. All the sports matter.
They really do. And shout out to all the Locked On Sooners listeners. When I started when I started hosting Locked On Sooners 2 years ago, the fact that they stuck with me for that first year is what helped me land the Sooners Wire gig. So shout out to y'all. Love you guys. Appreciate y'all so much.
Jake.
Check out my work. Follow Locked On Cougars wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. You guys know where to find it. You can follow my work. Jacob C. Hatch is my Twitter handle, or you can search out the show Locked On Cougars on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter.
Drake.
At Locked On Baylor on Twitter. We're looking for a new baseball coach. All things baseball right now. Football, never heard of it. All things baseball, new baseball coach. We have yesterday's show, our last show, top 5 potential candidates for Baylor baseball, or follow my personal at Drake C. Toll on Twitter for mostly just food takes.
You guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _. You guys can find the show over at Podcast. We are going to 3 a week. That is something that's happening on my channel. I'm not sure about you all, but we are going to 3 a week as things kind of slow down right now. Still coming out with interesting content. This will obviously be one of the shows you all get each week, but we're going 3 a week. Find me on Twitter at Josh Neighbors _. Find the show at LO Big 12. Find us wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as well. All right, guys. For John, for Drake, and for Jake, it's Josh Neighbors signing off. We'll see you guys next time.